castaway this week is a public intellectual, philosopher and activist. He says that he sees himself as a provocateur and a seeker of truth, and his new publication, The Revolutionist's Handbook, sets out a new direction for the country, and indeed for all of Western society. He is John Tanner.
Hi, Kirsty.
Hi, and welcome. So before we get to that new book, John, tell me, what's your first record?
Well, all my life I've been fascinated by the legend of Don Juan. So my first choice is the overture to Mozart's Don Giovanni.
Come!
Mr. Robinson.
Well, Octavius, it's the common lot. We must all face it sometime. Sit down.
Yes, we must face it, Mr. Ramsden. But I owed him a great deal. He did everything for me that my father could have done if he had lived.
He had no son of his own, you see.
But he had daughters, and yet he was as good to my sister as to me. And his death was so sudden.
Yes.
I'd always intended to thank him, to let him know that I'd not taken all his care of me as a matter of course. But I waited for an opportunity, and now he is dead. Dropped without a moment's warning. He will never know what I felt.
How do we know that, Octavius? He may know it. We cannot tell. Come. Don't grieve. That's right. Let me tell you something to console you. The last time I saw him, it was in this very room, he said to me, Tavy is a generous lad and the soul of honor. And when I see how little consideration other men get from their sons, I realize how much better than a son he's been to me. Now, doesn't that do you good?
Mr. Ramsden, he used to say to me that he'd only met one man in the world who was the soul of honor, and that was Roebuck Ramsden.
Oh, that was his partiality. We were very old friends, you know. But there was something else he used to say about you. I wonder whether I ought to tell you or not.
Oh, you know best.
It was something about his daughter.
About Anne? Oh, do tell me that, Mr. Ramsden.
Well, he said he was glad, after all, that you were not his son, because he thought that someday Annie and you... well, perhaps I shouldn't have told you.
If only I thought I had a chance. You know, Mr. Ramsden, I don't care about money or about what people call status, and I can't bring myself to take an interest in the business of struggling for them. Well, Anne has a most exquisite nature. Oh, but she's so accustomed to be in the thick of that sort of thing that she thinks a man's character incomplete if he's not ambitious. Well, she knows that if she married me, she would have to reason herself out of being ashamed of me for not being a big success of some kind.
Nonsense, my boy, nonsense. You're too modest. Besides, she's a wonderful, dutiful girl. Her father's wish would be sacred to her. I don't believe she's ever once given her own wish as a reason for doing anything or not doing it. It's always, father wishes me to, or mother wouldn't like it. It's really almost a fault in her. I've often told her she must learn to think for herself.
I couldn't ask her to marry me because her father wished it, Mr. Ramsden.
Well, perhaps not. No, of course not. No, I see that. No, you certainly couldn't. But, when you win her on your own terms, it'll be a great happiness to her to fulfill her father's desires as well as her own, eh? Come, you'll ask her, won't you?
At all events, I promise you I shall never ask anyone else.
You shan't need to. She'll accept you, my boy. Although you have one great drawback.
What drawback is that, Mr. Ramsden? I should rather say which of my many drawbacks.
I'll tell you, Octavius. I have in my hand the most infamous, the most scandalous, the most mischievous, the most blackguardly text. I've not read it. I wouldn't soil my mind with such filth, but I've read what the papers say of it. The title is quite enough for me. The Revolutionist's Handbook and Pocket Companion by John Tanner, M.I.R.C., member of the idle rich class.
Jack is
For
deliberately...
goodness sake, don't call him Jack under my roof. Now, Octavius, I know my dead friend was right when he said you were a generous lad. I know you feel bound to stand by this Tanner. But I ask you to consider the altered circumstances. Now, you were treated as a son in my friend's house. You lived there. Your friends could not be turned from the door. This Tanner was in and out of there almost from his childhood. Well, while Annie's father was alive, that was his business, not mine. But now, Tanner is a grown man, and Annie a grown woman, and her father is gone. We don't as yet know the exact terms of his will, but he often talked it over with me, and I have no doubt that the will appoints me as Annie's guardian and trustee. Now, I tell you once and for all, I can't and I won't have Annie placed in such a position that she must, out of regard for you, suffer the intimacy of this fellow Tanner. It's not fair, it's not right, it's not kind. What are you going to do about it?
But Anne herself has told Jack that whatever his opinions are, he will always be welcome because he knew her dear father.
That girl is mad about her damn duty to her parents. Excuse me, Octavius. You know that I am not a bigoted or a prejudiced man. You know that I am plain Roebuck Ramsden, but I draw the line at anarchism and free love and that sort of thing. Now, if I am to be trustee of Annie's inheritance, she will have to learn that she has a duty to me. I won't have it. I will not have it. She must forbid John Tanner the house, and so must you.
But
Come.
Mr. Tanner wished to see you, sir.
Mr. Tanner?
Jack!
How dare Mr. Tanner call me? Say I cannot see her.
I'm sorry you are turning my friend from your door like that.
He's not at the door, sir. He's upstairs with Miss Ramsden. He came with Mrs. Whitfield and Miss Anne and Miss Robinson, sir.
Oh, that's very like Jack, Mr. Ramsden. You must see him, even if it's only to turn him out.
Go upstairs and ask Mr. Tanner to be good enough to step down here. Well, I must say, all the confounded pieces of impertinence. Well, if these are anarchist manners, I hope you like him. And Annie, with him, Annie.
Yes, that's just what surprises me. He's so desperately afraid of Anne. There must be something the matter.
Ramsden!
Do you know what this is?
No, sir.
It's a copy of Whitfield's will. Anne got it this morning.
When you say Anne, you mean, I presume, Miss Whitfield.
I mean our Anne, your Anne, Tavy's Anne, and now, heaven help me, my Anne.
What do you mean?
Do you know who is appointed Anne's guardian and trustee by this will?
I believe I am.
You and I, man. I. Both of us.
You? That's impossible.
It's only too hideously true. Ramsden, get me out of it somehow. You don't know Anne as well as I do. She'll commit every crime a respectable woman can and justify every one of them by saying it was the wish of her guardians. She'll put everything on us, and we'll have no more control over her than a couple of mice over a cat.
Oh, Jack, I wish you wouldn't talk like that about Anne.
This chap's in love with her, that's another complication. Well, she'll either jilt him and say I didn't approve of him, or marry him and say you ordered her to. I tell you, this is the most staggering blow that's ever fallen on a man of my age and temperament.
Let me see that will. I cannot believe that my old friend Whitfield would have shown such a want of reason as to associate me with...
It's all my own doing. That's the horrible irony of it. He told me one day that you were to be Anne's guardian, and like a fool I began arguing with him about the folly of leaving a young woman under the control of an old man with obsolete ideas.
My ideas obsolete?
Oh, totally. I'd just finished writing an article called Down with Government by the Grey-Haired, and I was full of arguments and illustrations. I said the proper thing was to combine the experience of an old hand with the vitality of a young one. Hang me if he didn't take me at my word and alter his will. It's dated only a fortnight after that conversation appointing me joint guardian with you.
I shall refuse to act.
Oh, what's the good of that? I've been refusing all the way from Richmond. But Anne keeps on saying that, of course, she's only an orphan. That's the latest game. An orphan. It's like hearing a battleship talk about being at the mercy of winds and waves.
This is not fair, Jack. She's lost her father and you ought to stand by her.
Stand by her? What danger is she in? She has the law on her side. She has popular sentiment on her side. She has plenty of money and no conscience. All she wants with me is to load up all her moral responsibilities on me and do as she likes at the expense of my character. I can't control her and she can compromise me as much as she likes. I might as well be her husband.
Refuse to accept a guardianship. I shall certainly refuse to hold it jointly with you.
Yes, and what would she say to that? What does she say to it? Just that her father's wishes are sacred to her, and that she shall always look up to me as her guardian, whether I get to face the responsibility or not. Refuse? You might as well refuse to accept the embraces of a boa constrictor when once it gets around your neck.
Oh, this sort of talk is not kind to me, Jack. If you loved a woman, I would not compare her to a boa constrictor in your presence, however much I might dislike her.
I do not believe that Whitfield was in his right senses when he made that will. You've admitted that he made it under your influence.
You ought to be pretty well obliged to me for my influence. He leaves you 200,000 for your trouble. He leaves Tavy a trust for his sister and 500,000 for himself.
Oh, I can't take it. He was too good to us.
Well, you won't get it, my boy, if Ramsden upsets the will.
Oh, I see. You've got me in a cleft stick.
He leaves me nothing but the responsibility of Anne's morals, on the grounds that I have already more money than is good for me. That shows he had his wits about him, doesn't it?
I admit that.
Mr. Ramsden, I think you are prejudiced against Jack. He is a man of honour and incapable of abusing his position.
Oh, don't, Tavy. I'm not a man of honour. I'm a man struck down by a dead hand. Tavy, you must marry her after all and take her off my hands. And I had my heart set on saving you from her.
Oh, Jack, you talk of saving me from my highest happiness.
Yes, a lifetime of happiness. If it were only the first half hour's happiness, Tavy, I'd buy it for you with my last penny. But a lifetime of happiness. No man alive could bear it. It'd be hell on earth.
Well, talk sense or go waste someone else's time. I have something better to do than listen to your foolery.
You hear him, Tavy. Not an idea in his head later than the 19th century. We can't leave Anne with no other guardian to turn to.
I am proud of your contempt for my character and opinions. Your own are set forth in here, I believe.
What do you think of them?
Do you suppose I would read such material?
Well, then why did you buy it?
I did not buy it. It was sent to me by some foolish lady who seems to admire your views. I was about to dispose of it when Octavius interrupted me. I shall do so now, with your permission.
You have no more manners than I have myself. However, that saves ceremony between us. What do you intend to do about this will?
May I make a suggestion?
Certainly, Octavius.
Aren't we forgetting that Anne herself might have some wishes in this matter?
I quite intended Anne's wishes should be consulted in every reasonable way, but she is a very young and inexperienced woman.
Ramsden, I begin to pity you.
I don't want to know how you feel towards me, Mr. Turner.
Anne will do just exactly what she likes, and what's more, she'll force us to advise her to do it. And she'll put the blame on us if it turns out badly. So as Tavy's longing to see her...
I am not.
You lie, Tavy, you are, so let's have her down and ask her what she intends us to do. Off with you, Tavy, and fetch her. And don't be long, for the strained relations between Ramsden and myself will make the interval rather painful.
Never mind him, Mr. Ramsden. He's not serious.
Mr. Tanner, you are the most impudent person I have ever met.
I know it, Ramsden, yet even I cannot wholly conquer shame. We live in an atmosphere of shame. We're ashamed of everything that's real about us. Ashamed of ourselves, of our relatives, of our incomes, of our accents, of our opinions, of our experience, just as we're ashamed of our naked skins. The more things a man is ashamed of, the more respectable he is. Why, you're ashamed to buy my book. You're ashamed to read it. The only thing you're not ashamed of is to judge me for it without having read it. And that only means you're ashamed to have heterodox opinions. Look at the effect I produce, because my fairy godmother withheld from me this gift of shame. I have every possible virtue a man can have.
I'm glad you think so well of yourself.
All you mean by that is that you think I ought to be ashamed of talking about my virtues. You don't mean that I haven't got them. You know perfectly well that I am as sober and honest a citizen as yourself, as truthful personally, and much more truthful politically and morally.
I deny that. I will not allow you or any man to treat me as if I were a mere member of the British public. Detest its prejudices. I scorn its narrowness. I demand the right to think for myself. Oh, you pose as an advanced man. Let me tell you, I was an advanced man before you were born.
Yeah. I knew it was a long time ago.
I'm as advanced as ever I was. I grow more advanced every day.
More advanced in years, Polonius.
Polonius? So you're Hamlet, I suppose.
No, I'm only the most impudent man you've ever met. That's your notion of a thoroughly bad character. When you want to give me a piece of your mind, you ask yourself, as a just and upright man, what's the worst you can fairly say of me? Thief, liar, forger, adulterer, perjurer, glutton, drunkard, not one of these names fit me. You have to fall back on my deficiency and shame. Well, yeah, I admit it. I even congratulate myself, for if I were ashamed of my real self, I would cut as stupid a figure as any of the rest of you. Cultivate a little impudence, Ramsden, and you'll become quite a remarkable man.
I have no desire.
You have no desire for that sort of notoriety. Bless you. I knew that answer would come. You'd be ashamed to say anything else.
I'm sorry, Annie, to force business on you at a sad time like the present. But your poor dear father's will has raised a very serious question. You've read it, I believe? I must say I am surprised to find Mr. Tanner named as joint guardian with myself of you and Rhoda. I don't know that I can consent to act under such conditions. Mr. Tanner has, I understand, some objection also, but I do not profess to understand its nature. He will no doubt speak for himself. But we are agreed that we can decide nothing until we know your views. I'm afraid I shall have to ask you to choose between my sole guardianship and that of Mr. Tanner, for I fear it is impossible for us to undertake a joint arrangement.
Mamma! Now, Anne, I do beg you not to put it on me. I have no opinion on the subject. And if I had, it would probably not be attended to. I am quite content with whatever you three think best.
Mamma knows that she is not strong enough to bear the whole responsibility for me and Rhoda without some help and advice. Rhoda must have a guardian, and though I am older, I do not think any young, unmarried woman should be left quite to her own guidance. I hope you agree with me, Granny.
Granny? Do you intend to call your guardians Granny?
Oh, don't be foolish, Jack. Mr. Ramsden has always been Grandpapa Roebuck to me. I'm Granny's Annie, and he is Annie's Granny. I christened him when I first learned to speak.
I hope you're satisfied, Mr. Tanner. Go on, Annie. I quite agree with you.
Well, if I am to have guardians, can I set aside anybody whom my dear father appointed for me?
You approve of your father's choice, then?
It is not for me to approve or disapprove. I accept it. My father loved me and knew best what was good for me.
Of course, I understand your feeling, Annie, and it's what I should have expected of you, and it does you credit. But it does not settle the question so completely as you think. Let me put a case to you. Suppose you were to discover that I had been guilty of some disgraceful action, that I was not the man your poor dear father took me for. Would you still consider it right that I should be Rhoda's guardian?
Oh, I can't imagine you doing anything disgraceful, Granny.
You haven't done anything of the sort, have you?
No, sir.
Well, then why suppose it?
You see, Granny, Mamma would not like me to suppose it.
You are both so full of natural and affectionate feelings in these family matters that it is very hard to put the situation fairly before you.
Besides, my friend, you're not putting the situation fairly before them.
Well, put it yourself, then.
I will. And Ramsden thinks I'm not fit to be your guardian, and I quite agree with him. He considers that if your father had read my writing, he wouldn't have appointed me. That's the disgraceful action he's been talking about. He thinks it's your duty, for Rhoda's sake, to ask him to act alone and to make me withdraw. Say the word and I will.
But I haven't read your work, Jack.
Then read it at once and decide.
If I am to be your guardian, I positively forbid you to read that, Annie.
Of course, if you don't wish it.
If one guardian is to forbid you to read the other guardian's work, how are we to settle it? Suppose I order you to read it. What about your duty to me?
I'm sure you would never purposely force me into a painful dilemma, Jack.
Yes, Annie, this is all very well. As I said, quite natural and becoming, but you must make a choice one way or the other. We are as much in a dilemma as you are.
I feel I'm too young, too inexperienced to decide. My father's wishes are sacred to me.
If you two men won't carry them out, I must say it is rather hard that you should put the responsibility on Anne. It seems to me that people are always putting things on other people in this world.
I greatly object to act with Mr. Tanner, that is all.
Why? What's the matter with poor Jack?
My views are too advanced for him.
They are not, I deny that.
Of course not. What nonsense. Nobody is more advanced than Granny. I'm sure it is Jack himself who has made all the difficulty. Come, Jack. Be kind to me in my sorrow. You don't refuse to accept me, do you?
No. I let myself in for it, so I suppose I must face it.
Then we are all agreed, and my dear father's will is to be carried out. Oh, you don't know what a joy that is to me and to my mother. And I shall have my dear Granny to help and advise me. And Jack, the giant killer, and Jack's inseparable friend, Ricky Tikki Tavi.
Now that you are Anne's guardian and trustee, Mr. Ramsden, I wish you would speak to her about her habit of giving people nicknames. They can't be expected to like it.
How can you say such a thing, Mamma? Oh, I wonder, can you be right? Have I been inconsiderate? Do you want to be treated like a grown-up man? Must I call you Octavius in future?
Oh, please, call me Ricky Tikki Tavi. Octavius would hurt me cruelly.
You know, I'm beginning to think that Granny is rather a piece of impertinence, but I never dreamt of its hurting you.
My dear Annie, nonsense. I insist on Granny. I won't answer to any other name but Annie's Granny.
You all spoil me. Except Jack.
I think you ought to call me Mr. Tanner.
No, you don't, Jack. But if you like, I'll call you after your famous ancestor, Don Juan.
Don Juan.
Oh, is there any harm in it? I didn't know. Well, I certainly won't call you that then. May I call you Jack until I can think of something else?
Oh, for heaven's sake, don't try to invent anything worse. I capitulate. I consent to Jack. I embrace Jack. Here endeth my first and last attempt to assert my authority.
You see, Mamma, they all really like to have pet names.
Well, I think you might at least drop them until we're out of mourning.
How could you remind me, Mother?
Of course. My fault, as usual.
Ramsden, we're beaten, smashed, non-entertised, like her mother.
Stuff, sir.
Tavy. Do you want to count for something in the world?
I want to count for something as a poet. I want to write a great play.
With Anne as the heroine.
Yes, I confess it.
Oh, take care, Tavy. The play with Anne as the heroine is all right, but if you're not very careful, by heaven, she will marry you.
No such luck, Jack.
Oh, why, man? Your head is in the lioness's mouth. You're half swallowed already in 3 bites. Bite 1, Ricky. Bite 2, Ticky. Bite 3, Tavy. And down you go.
She's the same to everybody, Jack. You know her ways.
Yes, she breaks everybody's back with the stroke of her paw. But the question is, which of us will she eat? My own opinion is that she means to eat you.
It is horrible to talk like that about her when she's upstairs crying for her father. But I do so want her to eat me that I can bear your brutalities because they give me hope.
Tavy, that's the devilish side of a woman's fascination. She makes you will your own destruction.
But it's not destruction, it's fulfillment.
Yes, of her purpose. And that purpose is neither her happiness nor yours, but nature's. Vitality in a woman is a blind fury of creation. She sacrifices herself to it. Do you think she'll hesitate to sacrifice you?
Why, it is just because she is self-sacrificing that she will not sacrifice those she loves.
That's the profoundest of mistakes, Tavy. It is the self-sacrificing women who sacrifice others most recklessly. Because they are unselfish, they are kind in little things, because they have a purpose, which is not their purpose, but that of the whole universe, a man is nothing to them but an instrument of that purpose.
Don't be ungenerous, Jack. They take the tenderest care of us.
Yes, as a soldier takes care of his rifle. Or a musician of his violin. But do they allow us any purpose or freedom of our own? Will they lend us to one another? Can the strongest man escape from them when once he is appropriated? They tremble when we're in danger and they weep when we die, but the tears are not for us, but for a father wasted, a son's breeding thrown away. They accuse us of treating them as a mere means to our pleasure, but how can so feeble and transient a folly as man's selfish pleasure enslave a woman as the whole purpose of nature, embodied in a woman, can enslave a man?
What matter if the slavery makes us happy?
Oh, no matter at all if you have no purpose of your own and are, like most men, a mere breadwinner. But you, Tavy, are an artist. That is, you have a purpose as absorbing and as unscrupulous as a woman's purpose.
It's not unscrupulous.
Oh, quite unscrupulous. The true artist will let his wife starve, his children go barefoot, his mother drudge for his living at 70 sooner than work at anything but his art. To women, he is half vivisector, half vampire. He gets into intimate relations with them, to study them, to strip the mask of convention from them, to surprise their inmost secrets, knowing that they have the power to rouse his deepest creative energies, to rescue him from his cold reason, to make him see visions and dream dreams, to inspire him, as he calls it. He persuades women that they may do this for their own purpose, whilst he really means them to do it for his. Since marriage began, the great artist has been known as a bad husband, but he's worse. He's a child robber, a bloodsucker, a hypocrite, and a cheat. Perish the race and wither 1,000 women, if only the sacrifice of them enable him to act Hamlet better. To paint a finer picture, write a deeper poem, a greater play, a profounder philosophy. For mark you, Tavy, the artist's work is to show us ourselves as we really are. Our minds are nothing but this knowledge of ourselves. And he who adds a jot to such knowledge creates new mind, as surely as any woman creates new men. In the rage of that creation, he is as ruthless as the woman, as dangerous to her as she to him, and as horribly fascinating. Of all human struggles, there is none so treacherous and remorseless as the struggle between the artist man and the mother woman. Which shall use up the other? That's the issue between them. And it is all the deadlier because in your romanticist cant, they love one another.
Even if it was so, and I don't admit it for a moment, it is out of the deadliest struggles that we get the noblest characters.
Remember that next time you meet a grizzly bear or a Bengal tiger, Tavy.
I meant where there is love, Jack.
Oh, the tiger will love you. There's no love sincerer than the love of food. I think Anne loves you that way. She patted your cheek as if it were a nicely underdone chop.
Do you know, Jack, I should have to run away from you if I did not make it a fixed rule not to mind anything you say. You come up with perfectly revolting things sometimes.
I hardly expected to find you still here, Mr. Tanner.
Am I in the way? Good morning, fellow guardian.
Stop, Jack. Granny, he must know sooner or later.
Octavius, I have a very serious piece of news for you. It is of the most private and delicate nature, of the most painful nature, too, I am sorry to say. Do you wish Mr. Tanner to be present whilst I explain?
I have no secrets from Jack.
Before you decide that finally, let me say that the news concerns your sister, and that it is terrible news.
Violet, what has happened? Is she badly hurt? Has there been an accident? Is she dead?
No, nothing of that sort.
Anne, will you have the common humanity to tell us what the matter
I
is?
can't. Violet has done something dreadful.
Is that what you meant, Mr. Ramsden?
Yes. I'm afraid Violet did not really go to Eastbourne 3 weeks ago, when we thought she was with her cousins. And yesterday she called on a gynecologist in Harley Street. Mrs. Parry met her there by chance, and so the whole thing has come out.
Who is the scoundrel?
She won't tell us.
Oh, what a frightful thing.
Dreadful, appalling, worse than death. What would you not give, Tavy, to turn it into a railway accident with all her bones broken or something equally respectable and
Don't
demanding
be
sympathy?
brutal, Jack.
Brutal, good heavens, man! What are you crying for? Here is a woman whom we all supposed to be making bad watercolour sketches, gadding about at concerts and parties, wasting her life and her money. We suddenly learn that she's turned from these sillinesses to the fulfilment of her highest purpose and greatest function, to increase, multiply, and replenish the earth. And instead of admiring her courage and rejoicing in her instinct, here you are, all pulling long faces and looking as ashamed and disgraced as if she had committed the vilest of crimes.
I will not have these abominations uttered in my house.
Look here, if you insult me again, I'll take you at your word and I'll leave your house. Anne, where is Violet now?
Why? Are you going to her?
Well, of course I'm going to her. She wants help. She wants money. She wants respect and congratulation. She wants every chance for her child. She does not seem likely to get it from you. She shall from me. Where is she?
Don't be so headstrong, Jack. She's upstairs.
What? Under Ramsden's sacred roof? Go and do your miserable duty, Ramsden. Hunt her out into the street. Cleanse your threshold from her contamination. I'll call for a cab.
Granny, you mustn't do that.
I'll take her away, Mr. Ramsden. She had no right to come to your house.
But I am only too ready to help her. I protest against this. How dare you impute these monstrous intentions to me? I protest against it. I am ready to put down my last penny to save her from being driven to run to you for protection.
Oh, it's all right then. He's not going to act up to his principles. It's agreed we all stand by Violet.
Who is the man? He can make reparation by marrying her, and he shall. He shall answer for it to me.
He shall, Octavius, and there you speak like a man.
So you don't think him a scoundrel after all?
Not a scoundrel. He's a heartless scoundrel.
Damn scoundrel! I beg your pardon, Annie, but I can say no less.
So we're to marry your sister to a damned scoundrel by way of reforming her character. On my soul, I think you're all mad.
Oh, don't be absurd, Jack. Of course, you're quite right, Tavy, but we don't know who he is. Violet won't tell us.
Well, does it matter who he is? He's done his part, and Violet must do the rest.
That's lunacy. There is a rascal in our midst, a libertine, and we are not to learn who he is in our ignorance. We're to shake him by the hand, introduce him into our homes, trust our daughters with him.
There, Granny, don't talk so loud. It's most shocking. We must all admit that. But if Violet won't tell us, what can we do? Nothing. Simply nothing.
I am not so sure of that. If any man has paid Violet any special attention, we can easily find that out. If there is any man of notoriously loose principles among us, yes, I repeat, if there is any man of notoriously loose principles among us,
Or any man notoriously lacking in self-control.
you dare to suggest that I am capable of such an act?
My dear Ramsden, this is an act of which every man is capable. That is what comes of getting at cross purposes with nature. The suspicion you've just flung at me clings to us all. Oh, come, Tavy, don't look so bewildered. It might have been me. It might have been Ramsden. Just as it might have been anybody. If it had, what could we do but lie and protest as Ramsden's going to protest? Guilt itself could not stammer more confusedly. And yet you know perfectly well he's innocent, Tavy.
I admit there is an element of truth in what you say, grossly as you may distort it to gratify your malicious humour. I hope, Octavius, no suspicion of me is possible in your life.
You? No, not for a moment.
I think he suspects me just a little.
Jack, you couldn't. You wouldn't.
Why not?
Why not?
Oh, I'll tell you why not. First, you'd feel bound to quarrel with me. Second, Violet doesn't like me. Third, if I had the honour of being the father of Violet's child, I should boast of it instead of denying it. So be easy, our friendship's not in danger.
I should have put away the suspicion with horror if only you would think and feel naturally about it. I beg your pardon.
I pardon nonsense. Now let's sit down and have a family council. What's happening upstairs?
Violet is in the utility room, by herself, of course.
Well, why not in the sitting room?
Oh, don't be absurd, Jack. Miss Ramsden is in the sitting room with my mother, considering what to do.
Oh, the utility room is the penitentiary, I suppose. And the prisoners waiting to be brought before her judges, the old cats.
Jack!
You are, at present, a guest beneath the roof of one of the old cats. My sister is the mistress of this house.
She'd put me in the utility room, too, if she dared, Ramsden. However, I withdraw. Cats would have more sense. Anne, as your guardian, I order you to go to Violet at once and be particularly kind to her.
I have seen her, Jack. And I'm sorry to say, I'm afraid she's going to be rather obstinate. I think Tavy ought to speak to her.
How can I speak to her about such a thing?
Oh, don't break down, Ricky. Try to bear it for all our sakes.
Life is not all plays and poems, Octavius. Come on, face it like a man.
Poor dear brother, poor dear friends of the family, poor dear everybody except the woman who's going to risk her life to create another life. Tavy, don't you be a selfish ass. Away with you and talk to Violet and bring her down here if she cares to come. Tell her we'll stand by her.
I assure you all, on my word, I never meant to be selfish. Oh, it's so hard to know what to do when one wishes earnestly to do right.
My dear Tavy, your pious English habit of regarding the world as a moral gymnasium occasionally leads you to think about your own confounded principles when you should be thinking about other people's necessities. The need of the present hour is a happy mother and a healthy baby. Bend your energies on that and you'll see your way clearly enough.
And morality? What is to become of that?
Morality can go to its father, the devil.
Oh, I thought so. Morality is sent to the devil to please our libertines. So that is to be the future of England, is it?
Oh, England will survive your disapproval. Meanwhile, I understand that you agree with me as to the practical course we're to take.
Not in your spirit, not for your reasons.
Granny, hadn't you better go up to the sitting room and tell them what we intend to do?
You're a good girl, Annie.
Jack? You don't mind being made responsible for me, I hope?
The latest addition to your collection of scapegoats, eh?
Why do you say things that you know must pain me? I do my best to please you, Jack. You'll make me so unhappy if you refuse to be friends with me.
You need not go begging for my regard. How unreal our moral judgments are. You seem to me to have absolutely no conscience, only hypocrisy, and you can't see the difference. Yet there's a sort of fascination about you. I always attend to you somehow. I should miss you if I lost you.
But isn't that only natural, Jack? We have known each other since we were children. Do you remember?
Oh, stop, I remember everything.
Oh, I dare say we were often very silly.
It's over, let me forget it.
Oh, was it a happy time?
Sit down and behave yourself. No doubt it was a happy time for you. You were a good girl and never compromised yourself. But tell me this, did you ever really know a good boy?
Oh, of course, all boys are foolish sometimes. But Tavy was always a really good boy.
Yes, you're right. For some reason, you never tempted Tavy.
Tempted? Jack?
Yes, my dear Lady Mephistopheles, tempted. You were insatiably curious as to what a boy might be capable of, and diabolically clever at getting through his guard and surprising his inmost secrets.
What nonsense! All because you used to tell me long stories of the wicked things you had done. Silly boys' tricks, and you call such things inmost secrets. Boys' secrets are just like men's, and you know what they are.
No, I don't. What are they, pray?
Why, the things they tell everybody, of course.
Now, I swear I told you things I told no one else. You lured me into a compact by which we were to have no secrets from one another. We were to tell one another everything. I didn't notice that you never told me anything.
Well, you didn't want to talk about me, Jack. You wanted to talk about yourself.
True, horribly true. Yet what a devil of a child you must have been to have known that weakness and to play on it for the satisfaction of your own curiosity. I wanted to brag to you, to make myself interesting. And I found myself doing all sorts of mischievous things simply to have something to tell you about. I fought with boys I didn't hate. I lied about things I might just as well have told the truth about. I stole things I didn't want. I kissed girls I didn't care for. It was all bravado, passionless and therefore unreal.
I never told of you, Jack.
No, but if you'd wanted to stop me, you would have told of me. You wanted me to go on.
Oh, that's not true. It's not true, Jack. I never wanted you to do those dull, disappointing, stupid, brutal, vulgar things. I always hoped it would be something really heroic at last. Excuse me, Jack, but the things you did were never a bit like the things I wanted you to do. They often gave me great uneasiness, but I could not tell on you and get you into trouble. And you were only a boy. I knew you'd grow out of them. Well, perhaps I was wrong.
Oh, do not give way to remorse, Anne. At least 19/20ths of the exploits I confessed to you are pure lies. I soon noticed that you didn't like the true stories.
Of course I knew that some of the things couldn't have happened.
No, you're going to remind me that some of the most disgraceful ones did.
I don't want to remind you of anything, but I knew the people they happened to and heard about them.
Yes, but even the true stories were touched up for telling. Perhaps it was as well for me that I romanced a bit, for on the one occasion when I told you the truth, you threatened to tell of me.
Oh, never once.
No, yes, you did. Do you remember a dark-eyed girl named Rachel Rosetree? I got up a love affair with her. We met one night in the garden and walked about very uncomfortably with our arms around one another and were most conscientiously romantic. If that love affair had gone on, it would have bored me to death. But it didn't go on because the next thing that happened was that Rachel cut me because she found out that I had told you. How did she find it out? From you. You went to her and held the guilty secret over her head, leading her a life of abject terror and humiliation by threatening to tell on her.
And a very good thing for her, too. It was my duty to stop her misconduct, and she is thankful to me for it even now.
Oh, is she?
She ought to be, at all events.
Well, it was not your duty to stop my misconduct, I suppose.
I did stop it by stopping her.
Are you sure of that? You stopped my telling you about my adventures, but how do you know that you stopped the adventures?
Do you mean to say you went on in the same way with other girls?
No. I'd had enough of that sort of romantic tomfoolery with Rachel.
Then why did you break off our confidences and become quite strange to me?
It happened just then that I got something that I wanted to keep all to myself instead of sharing it with you.
Well, I'm sure I should never have asked for any of it if you had grudged it.
It wasn't a box of sweets, Anne. It was something that you would never have let me call my own.
What?
My soul.
Oh, do be sensible, Jack. You know you're talking nonsense.
The most solemn earnest, Anne. You didn't notice at that time that you were getting a soul too, but you were. It was not for nothing that you suddenly found you had a moral duty to chastise and reform Rachel. Up to that time, I had played the boy buccaneer with no more conscience than a fox in a poultry farm. But now I began to have scruples, to feel obligations, to find that veracity and honour were no longer goody-goody expressions in the mouths of grown-up people, but compelling principles in myself.
You were beginning to be a man, and I to be a woman.
Are you sure it was not that we were beginning to be something more? I mean, what does the beginning of manhood and womanhood mean in most people's mouths? You know, it means the beginning of love. But love began long before that for me. Love played its part in the earliest dreams and follies and romances I can remember. May I say the earliest follies and romances we can remember, though we didn't understand it at the time. No, Anne, the change that came to me was the birth in me of moral passion. And I declare that according to my experience, moral passion is the only real passion.
All passions ought to be moral, Jack.
Ought. Do you think anything is strong enough to impose oughts on a passion, except a stronger passion still?
Our moral sense controls passion, Jack. Don't be stupid.
Our moral sense, and is not that a passion? Is the devil to have all the passions as well as all the good tunes? If it were not a passion, if it were not the mightiest of the passions, all the other passions would sweep it away like a leaf before a hurricane. It is the birth of that passion that turns a child into a man.
There are other passions, Jack. Very strong ones.
All the other passions, they were in me before, but they were idle and dangerous, mere idle curiosities, habits, fancies and superstitions, grotesque and ridiculous to the mature intelligence. When they suddenly began to shine like newly lit flames, it was by no light of their own, but by the radiance of the dawning moral passion. That passion dignified them, gave them conscience and meaning, found them a mob of appetites, and organised them into an army of purposes and principles. My soul was born of that passion.
I noticed that you got more sense. You were a dreadfully destructive boy before that.
Destructive stuff? I was only mischievous.
Oh, Jack, you were very destructive.
I'm 10 times more destructive now than I was then. A moral passion has taken my destructiveness in hand and directed it to moral ends. I've become a reformer, and like all reformers, an iconoclast. I shatter creeds, I demolish idols.
I'm afraid I'm too feminine to see any sense in destruction. Destruction can only destroy.
Yes, that's why it's so useful. Construction cumbers the ground with institutions made by busybodies. Destruction clears it and gives us breathing space and liberty.
It's no use, Jack. No woman will agree with you there.
No, that's because you confuse construction and destruction with creation and murder. They're quite different. I adore creation and I abhor murder. Yes, I adore it. In tree and flower, in bird and beast, even in you. It was the creative instinct that led you to attach me to you by bonds that have left their mark on me to this day. Yes, Anne, the old childish compact between us was an unconscious love compact.
Jack.
Don't be alarmed.
I'm not alarmed.
And then you ought to be. Where are your principles?
Jack, are you serious or are you not?
Do you mean about the moral passion?
No. The other one, the... Oh, God, you're so silly! One never knows how to take you!
You must take me quite seriously. I am your guardian and it is my duty to improve your mind.
The love compact is over then, is it? I suppose you grew tired of me.
No, but the moral passion made our childish relations impossible. A jealous sense of my new individuality arose in me.
You hated to be treated as a boy any longer. Oh, poor Jack.
I'd become a new person, and those that knew the old person laughed at me.
You became frightfully self-conscious.
When you go to heaven, Anne, you'll be frightfully conscious of your wings for the first year or so. When you meet your relatives there and they persist in treating you as if you were still a mortal, you won't be able to bear them. You'll try to get into a circle that's never known you except as an angel.
Oh, so it was only vanity that made you run away from us after all, then?
Yes, only my vanity, as you call it.
Well, you needn't have kept away from me on that account.
From you, above all others, you fought harder than anybody against my emancipation.
How wrong you are! I would have done anything for you.
Anything except let me get loose from you. That's what all women do. If we try to go where you do not want us to go, there's no law to prevent us. But the moment we take the first step, your breasts are under our foot as it descends, your bodies under our wheels as we start. No woman shall ever enslave me in that way.
I'm sorry you thought my influence a bad one.
I don't say it was a bad one, but bad or good, I did not choose to be cut to your measure, and I won't be cut to it.
Nobody wants you to, Jack. I assure you, really, on my word, I don't mind your queer opinions one little bit. You know, we have all been brought up to have advanced opinions. Why do you persist in thinking me so narrow-minded?
You know, that's the danger of it. I know you don't mind, because you found out that it doesn't matter. The boa constrictor doesn't mind the opinions of the stag one little bit when once she's got her coils round it.
Oh, now I understand why you warned Tavy that I'm a boa constrictor. Granny told me. Doesn't it feel nice and soft, Jack?
You scandalous woman, will you throw away even your hypocrisy?
Oh, I'm never hypocritical with you, Jack. Oh, are you angry? Perhaps I shouldn't have done that.
Oh, pooh, prudery. Why should you not if it amuses you?
Well, because I suppose what you really meant by the boa constrictor was this.
Magnificent audacity. Now, just to think, if I mentioned this episode, not a soul would believe me except the people who'd cut me for telling. Whilst if you accused me of it, nobody would believe my denial.
You are incorrigible, Jack. But you should not jest about our affection for one another. Nobody could possibly misunderstand it. You do not misunderstand it, I hope.
My blood interprets for me, Anne. Poor Ricky-Ticky Tavy.
Well, surely you're not so absurd as to be jealous of Tavy.
Jealous? Why should I be? But I don't wonder at your grip of him. I feel the coils tightening round my very self, though you're only playing with me.
Do you think I have designs on Tavy?
I know you have.
Take care, Jack. You may make Tavy very unhappy if you mislead him about me.
Never fear. He'll not escape you.
I wonder, are you really a clever man?
Why this sudden misgiving on the subject?
Well, you seem to understand all the things I don't understand, but are a perfect baby in the things I do understand.
I understand how Tavy feels for you, Anne.
And you think you understand how I feel for Tavy, don't you?
I know perfectly well what's going to happen to poor Tavy.
Tavy will be very unhappy.
Yes, but he won't know it, poor devil. He's 1,000 times too good for you. That's why he's going to make the mistake of his life about you.
Yeah, I think men make more mistakes by being too clever than by being too good.
There's always one who kisses and one who only allows the kiss. Tavy will kiss and you will only turn the cheek. And you'll throw him over if anybody better turns up.
You have no right to say such things. They are not true and not delicate. If you and Tavy choose to be stupid about me, that's not my fault.
Forgive my brutalities, Anne. They're levelled at this wicked world, not at you. All the same, I wish Ramsden would come back. I never feel safe with you. There's a devilish charm, or no, not a charm, a subtle interest, just so you know it and you triumph in it. Openly and shamelessly triumph in it.
What a shocking flirt you are, Jack.
A flirt?
Yes, a flirt. You're always abusing and offending people, but you never really mean to let go your hold of them.
I'll call them back. This conversation has already gone further than I intended.
I wash my hands of the whole affair.
I know you wish me to take Violet away, Miss Ramsden. I will.
No.
What is the use of saying no, Roebuck?
Octavius knows I wouldn't turn any truly contrite or repentant woman from your doors. But when a woman is not only wicked but intends to go on being wicked, she and I part company.
Oh, Miss Ramsden, what do you mean? What has Violet said?
Violet is certainly very obstinate. I don't understand her.
But I do. It's as plain as the nose on your face, Roebuck. Violet doesn't want to be separated from this man, whoever he is.
Oh, surely. Octavius, did you speak to her?
She won't tell us anything. She won't make any arrangement until she's consulted somebody. It can't be anybody else but the scoundrel who's betrayed her.
Well, let her consult him. Where's the difficulty?
The difficulty, Mr. Jack, is that when I offered to help her, I didn't offer to become an accomplice. She either pledges her word never to see that man again, or else she finds some new friends, and the sooner the better.
The cab is at a door.
What cab?
For Miss Robinson.
Oh, all right. She has sent for a cab.
I wanted to send for that cab half an hour ago.
Well, I'm glad she understands the position she has placed herself in.
I don't like her going away in this fashion, Susan. We had better not do anything harsh.
No, I thank you again and again, but Miss Ramsden is quite right. Violet cannot expect to stay.
Well, hadn't you better go with her, Tavy?
She won't have me.
Of course she won't. She's going straight to that man.
As a natural result of her virtuous reception here.
There, Susan, you hear, and there is some truth in it. I wish you could reconcile it with your principles to be a little patient with this poor girl. She's very young and has a time for everything.
Oh, she will get all the sympathy she wants from the men. I'm surprised at you, Roebuck.
So am I, Ramsden, most favourably.
I have only looked in to tell Miss Ramsden that she will find her birthday present to me, the filigree bracelet, in the utility room.
Do come in, Violet, and talk to us sensibly.
Thank you. I've had quite enough of the family conversation this morning. So has your mother, Anne. She has gone home crying. But at all events, I have found out what some of my pretended friends are worth. Goodbye.
No, 1 moment. I have something to say, which I beg you to hear. I am altogether on your side in this matter. I congratulate you, with the sincerest respect, on having the courage to do what you have done. You are entirely in the right, and the family is entirely in the wrong.
Who told you?
Why, Ramsden and Tavy, of course. Why should they not?
They don't know.
Don't know what?
They don't know that I am in the right, I mean.
Oh, they know it in their hearts, so they think themselves bound to blame by their silly superstitions about morality and propriety and so forth. But I know, and the whole world really knows, though it dare not say so, that you were right to follow your instinct, that vitality and bravery are the greatest qualities a woman can have, and motherhood a solemn initiation into womanhood. And the fact of your not being married matters not one scrap either to your own worth or to our real regard for you.
Oh! You think me a wicked woman like the rest. You think I have not only been vile, but that I share your abominable opinions. Miss Ramsden, I have borne your hard words because I knew you would be sorry for them when you found out the truth. But I won't bear such a horrible insult as to be complimented by Jack on being one of the wretches of whom he approves. I have kept my marriage a secret for my husband's sake, but now I claim my right as a married woman not to be insulted.
You are married?
Yes. Not one of you even asked me.
I am utterly crushed. I meant well. I apologise. Abjectly apologise.
I hope you'll be more careful in future about the things you say. Of course, one does not take them seriously, but they are very disagreeable and rather in bad taste.
I have no defence. I shall know better in future than to take any woman's part. We have all disgraced ourselves in your eyes, except Anne. She befriended you. For her sake, forgive us.
Yes, Anne has been very kind. But then Anne knew.
And who, pray, is the gentleman who does not acknowledge his wife?
That is my business, Miss Ramsden, and not yours. I have my reasons for keeping my marriage a secret for the present.
All I can say is that we are extremely sorry, Violet. I'm shocked to think of how we have treated you.
I beg your pardon, Violet. I can say no more.
Of course, what you say puts a very different complexion on the matter. All the same, I owe it to myself.
You owe me an apology, Miss Ramsden. That's what you owe both to yourself and to me. If you were a married woman, you would not like sitting in the utility room and being treated like a naughty child by old ladies without any serious duties and responsibilities.
Don't hit us when we're down, Violet. We seem to have made fools of ourselves, but really it was you who made fools of us.
It was no business of yours, Jack, in any case.
No business of mine. Why, Ramsden as good as accused me of being the unknown gentleman.
You! How infamous! How abominable. How disgracefully you have all been talking about me. If my husband knew it, he would never let me speak to any of you again. I think you might have spared me at least.
But I assure you, I never, at least it's a monstrous perversion of something like this.
You needn't apologise, Roebuck. She brought it all on herself. It's for her to apologise for having deceived us.
I can make allowances for you, Miss Ramsden. You cannot understand how I feel on this subject. Though I should have expected rather better taste from people of greater experience. However, I quite feel that you have all placed yourselves in a very painful position, and the most truly considerate thing for me to do is to go at once. Good morning.
Well, I must say.
I don't think she was quite fair to us.
You must cower before the wedding ring like the rest of us, Ramsden. The cup of our ignominy is full.
I've got him.
All right now?
You're all right now. Okay, come on. Yeah. Well, you had enough of it, huh?
Well, I may as well walk to the house and stretch my legs and calm my nerves a little. I suppose you know that we have come from Hyde Park Corner to Richmond in 14 minutes.
I'd have done it in under 10 if we had a clear road all the way.
Why do you do it? Is it for love of sport or for the fun of terrifying your unfortunate employer?
What are you afraid of?
The police and breaking my neck.
Well, if you like easy going, you know, you could have taken the bus. It's cheaper. You pay me to save your time and to give you the value of your car.
I'm the slave of that car and of you, too. I dream of the accursed thing at night.
You'll get over that. What, if you're going up to the house, may I ask how long you're going to stay there? Because if you mean to put in the old morning talking to the ladies, I'll put the car in the stable and make myself comfortable. If not, I'll keep the car and a guy about here till you come.
Better wait here, we shan't be long. There's a young American gentleman, a Mr. Malone, who's driving Tavy down in his new American sports car.
American sports car?
Uh-huh.
What? Racing us down from London?
No, perhaps they're here already.
Well, if I'd have known it, why didn't you tell me, Mr. Tanner?
Because I've been told that this car is capable of 150 miles an hour, and I already know what you're capable of when there's a rival car on the road. No, Henry, there are things it's not good for you to know, and this was one of them. However, cheer up. We're going to have a day after your own heart. The American is to take Tavy, Violet and Anne. We are to take Miss Rhoda.
Well, that's Anne's sister, isn't it?
Yes.
What, and Anne herself is going in the other car? She ain't coming with you?
Why the devil should she come with me? Tavy will be in the other car. We've lost the race, thank heaven. Well, Tavy, is the American car a success?
I think so. We came from Hyde Park Corner here in 9 minutes. Oh, my, please, come on. How long were you?
About 3/4 of an hour or so.
Well, now, Mr. Tanner, come now. We'd have done it easy in under 10.
By the way, let me introduce you. Mr. Octavius Robinson, Mr. Henry Straker.
Henry. Pleased to meet you, sir. No. You know, Mr. Tanner's getting at you with that Henry Straker, you know. You call it Henry, but I don't mind, bless you.
You think it's simply bad taste in me to tease him, Tavy, but you're wrong. This man takes more trouble to drop his H's than ever his father did to pick them up. It's a mark of caste to him. I've never met anybody more swollen with the pride of class than Henry is.
Look, easy. A little moderation, Mr. Tanner.
A little moderation, Tavy, you observe. You would tell me to go easy on him, but this man has been educated. What's more, he knows that we haven't. What was that school of yours, Henry?
Sherbrooke Road.
Sherbrooke Road. Would any of us say Rugby, Harrow, Eton in that tone of intellectual snobbery?
You don't know nothing about it, Mr. Tanner. It's not the school that does it, it's the university.
Not Oxford, Cambridge, Durham, Dublin or Glasgow. No, Tavy. Greenwich, London Metropolitan, City Lit, I don't know half the confounded names. These are his universities. You despise Oxford, Henry, don't you?
No, I don't. Very nice sort of place. Oxford, I should think, if you like that sort of place. They teach you how to be a gentleman there.
If you could see into Henry's soul the depth of his contempt for a gentleman, the arrogance of his pride in being an engineer would appall you. He positively likes the car to break down because it brings out my gentlemanly helplessness and his workmanlike skill and resource.
Look, never you mind him, Mr. Robinson. He likes to talk. We know him, don't we?
Ah, but there's a great truth at the bottom of what he says. I believe most intensely in the dignity of labour.
Because you've never done any, Mr. Robinson. My business is to do away with labour.
Oh, for heaven's sake, don't start him on political economy. He knows all about it and we don't. You're only a poetic socialist, Tavy. He's a scientific one.
Well, yes, this conversation is very improving, but you guys want to talk about your ladies, huh? I know.
That's a very momentous social phenomenon.
What is?
Henry is the new man.
Well, I see nothing new about him, except your way of teasing him. But I don't want to talk about him just now. I want to speak to you about Anne.
Well, what about Anne? Have you proposed to her?
I was brute enough to do so last night.
Brute enough? What do you mean?
Oh, Jack. We men are all coarse. We never understand how exquisite a woman's sensibilities are. How could I have done such a thing?
Done what, you maudlin idiot?
Yes, I am an idiot. Oh, Jack, if you had heard her voice, if you'd seen her tears, I've lain awake all night thinking of them. If she'd reproached me, I could have borne it better.
Tears? That's dangerous. What did she say?
She asked me how she could think of anything now but her dear father. She stifled a sob.
Bear it like a man, Tavy, even if you feel it like an ass. It's the old game. She's not tired of playing with you yet.
Don't be a fool, Jack. Do you suppose this eternal, shallow cynicism of yours has any real bearing on a nature like hers?
Did she say anything else?
Yes. And that is why I expose myself and her to your ridicule by telling you what passed.
No, dear Tavy, not ridicule, on my honour. However, no matter. And go on.
Her sense of duty is so devout, so perfect, so pure.
Yes, I know. Go on.
You see, under this new arrangement, you and Ramsden are her guardians, and she considers that all her duty to her father is now transferred to you. She says she thought I ought to have spoken to you both in the first instance. Of course, she's right. But somehow it seems rather absurd that I am to come to you and formally ask to be received as a suitor for her hand.
I'm glad that love has not totally extinguished your sense of humour, Tavy.
That answer won't satisfy her.
My official answer is obviously, bless you, my children, may you be happy.
Oh, I wish you'd stop playing the fool about this, Jack. If it's not serious to you, it is to me and to her.
You know very well that she's as free to choose as you. However, say what you want me to do.
I want you to tell her sincerely and earnestly what you think about me. I want you to tell her you can trust her to me. That is, if you feel you can.
I've no doubt that I can trust her to you. What worries me is the idea of trusting you to her. Have you read Maeterlinck's book about the bee?
I'm not discussing literature
Be
at present.
just a little patient with me. I'm not discussing literature. The book about the bee is natural history. It's an awful lesson to mankind. You think that you are Anne's suitor, that you are the pursuer and she the pursued, that it is your part to woo, to persuade, to prevail, to overcome. Fool. It is you who are the pursued, the marked-down quarry, the destined prey. You need not sit looking longingly at the bait through the wires of the trap. The door is open and will remain so until it shuts behind you forever.
I wish I could believe that, vilely as you put it. But I cannot write without inspiration, and nobody can give me that except Anne.
Well, hadn't you better get it from her at a safe distance? Petrarch didn't see half as much of Laura nor Dante of Beatrice as you see of Anne now, and they wrote first-rate poetry. At least so I'm told. They never exposed their idolatry to the test of domestic familiarity, and it lasted them to their graves. Marry Anne, and at the end of a week you'll find no more inspiration in her than in a plate of muffins.
You think I shall tire of her.
Oh, not at all. You don't get tired of muffins, but you don't find inspiration in them. And you won't in her when she ceases to be a poet's dream and becomes a solid 11-stone wife. You'll be forced to dream about somebody else, and then they'll be around.
This sort of talk is no use, Jack. You don't understand. You have never been in love.
I've never been out of it. Why, I am in love even with Anne. But I am neither the slave of love nor its dupe. Go to the bee, thou poet, consider her ways and be wise. By heaven, Tavy, if women could do without our work, and we ate their children's bread instead of making it, they would kill us, as the spider kills her mate, or as the bees kill the drone. And they'd be right if we were good for nothing but love.
Oh, if only we were good enough for love. There's nothing like love. There's nothing else but love. Without it, the world would be a dream of sordid horror.
And this is the man who asks me to give him the hand of my trustee. Tavy, I think we were changed in our cradles, and that you are the real descendant of Don Juan.
I beg you not to say anything like that to Anne.
Don't be afraid. She has marked you for her own, and nothing will stop her now. You are doomed.
Now, would you believe it, Mr. Robinson? While we're out motoring, we've taken these two papers, the FT for him and the Mirror for me. And do you think I ever get to see my paper? Not likely. He grabs the Mirror for himself and leaves me to stodge myself with the Financial Times.
No, there are no winners in the FT.
Henry don't hold with betting, Tavy. Motor records are his weakness. What's the latest?
Look. Paris to Biskra at 80 mile an hour average, not counting the Mediterranean.
And how many killed?
2 silly sheep. Oh, what's it matter? Sheep don't cost a lot. They were glad to have the price of them without the trouble of selling them to the butcher. All the same, do you see, there'll be a clamour against it presently, and then the Algerian government will stop it and our chance will be gone. This is what makes me fairly mad. Mr. Tanner won't do a good run while he can.
All right, Henry. We'll go out for half an hour presently.
Half an hour?
Oh, yes. Oh, I say.
What's the matter?
Rhoda was to have come with me for a ride in the car. She says here that Anne forbids her to go out with me.
Does she give any reason?
Reason? An insult is not a reason. Rhoda says, quote, Anne forbids me to be alone with you on any occasion. She says you are not a fit person for a young girl to be with. What do you think of your paragon now?
You must remember that Anne has a very heavy responsibility now that her father is dead. And Mrs. Whitfield is too weak to control Rhoda.
In short, you agree with Anne?
No, but I think I understand her. But you must admit that your views are hardly suited for the formation of a young girl's mind and character.
I admit nothing of the sort. I admit that the formation of a young lady's mind usually consists in telling her lies, but I object to the particular lie that I'm in the habit of abusing the confidence of girls.
No, Anne, gentlemen.
Good morning, Jack. I've come to tell you that poor Rhoda has got one of her headaches and cannot go out with you today in the car. It's a cruel disappointment to her poor child.
What do you say now, Tavy?
Surely you cannot misunderstand, Jack. Anne is showing you the kindest consideration, even at the cost of deceiving you.
What do you mean?
Would you like to cure Rhoda's headache, Anne?
Of course.
Then tell her what you said just now and add that you arrived about 2 minutes after I had received her text and read it.
Rhoda has written to you?
With full particulars.
Never mind him, Anne. No, you're right, quite right. Jack, Anne's only doing her duty, and you know it. Doing it in the kindest way, too.
Oh, how kind you are, Tavy. How helpful. How well you understand.
Aye, tighten the coils. You love her, Tavy, don't you?
She knows I do.
Hush, Tavy.
Oh, I give you leave. I'm your guardian and I commit you to Tavy's care for the next hour.
No, Jack, I must speak to you about Rhoda. Ricky, will you go back to the house and entertain your American friend? He's rather on Mamma's hands so early in the morning. She wants to finish her housekeeping.
I fly, dearest Anne.
Oh, Ricky Ticky Tavy.
No, look here, Anne! This time you've landed yourself, and if Tavy were not in love with you past all salvation, he'd have found out what an incorrigible liar you are.
You misunderstand, Jack. I didn't dare tell Tavy the truth.
No, your daring is generally in the opposite direction. What the devil do you mean by telling Rhoda that I'm too vicious to associate with her? How can I ever have any human or decent relations with her again now that you've poisoned her mind in this abominable way?
I know you're incapable of behaving badly, Jack.
Then why did you lie to her?
I had to.
Had to?
Mother made me.
I might have known it. The mother. Always the mother.
I love my mother, Jack.
Is that any reason why you are not to call your soul your own? The law for father and son and mother and daughter is not the law of love. It is the law of revolution. of emancipation, of killing the old and in with the new. I tell you, the first duty of manhood and womanhood is a declaration of independence.
I suppose you will go in seriously for politics someday, Jack.
What? What's that got to do with what I've been saying?
Well, you talk so well.
Talk, it means nothing to you but talk. Well, go back to your mother and help her to poison Rhoda's imagination as she has poisoned yours. It's the tame elephants who enjoy capturing the wild ones.
Yesterday I was a boa constrictor, today I'm an elephant.
Yes, so pack your trunk and be gone. I've no more to say to you.
You are so utterly unreasonable and impracticable. What can I do?
Break your chains! Go your way according to your own conscience and not according to your mother's. Get your mind clean and vigorous and learn to enjoy a fast ride in a motor car instead of seeing nothing in it but an excuse for a detestable intrigue. Come with me to Marseille and across to Algiers and to Biskra at 150 miles an hour. Come right down to the Cape if you like. That'll be a declaration of independence with a vengeance. You can write a book about it afterwards. It'll finish your mother and it'll make a woman of you.
I don't think there would be any harm in that, Jack. It would be delightful. Thank you 1,000 times, Jack. I'll come.
You'll come?
Of course.
Now look here, Anne. If there's no harm in it, there's no point in doing it.
How absurd you are. You don't want to compromise me, do you?
Yes, that's the whole sense of my proposal.
You are talking the greatest nonsense, and you know it. You would never do anything to hurt me.
Well, if you don't want to be compromised, then don't come.
Yes, I will come, Jack, since you wish it. You are my guardian and think we ought to see more of one another and come to know one another better. It's very thoughtful and very kind of you, Jack, to offer me this lovely holiday, especially after what I said about Rhoda. You really are good. Much better than you think. So when do we start? Oh, Mum! What do you think? Jack is going to take me to Nice in his motor car. Isn't it lovely? I'm the happiest person in London.
Mrs. Whitfield objects. I'm sure she objects, doesn't she, Ramsden?
I should think it very likely indeed.
You don't object, do you, Mother?
I object. Why should I? I think it will do you good, Anne. I meant to ask you to take Rhoda out for a run occasionally. She is too much in the house. But it will do when you come back.
Abyss beneath abyss of perfidy.
Oh, I forgot. You've not met Mr. Malone. Mr. Tanner, my guardian, Mr. Hector Malone.
Pleased to meet you, Mr. Tanner. I should like to suggest an extension of the traveling party to Nice, if I may.
Oh, we're all coming. That's understood, isn't it?
I also am the modest possessor of a motor car. If Miss Robinson would allow me the pleasure of taking her, my car is at her service.
Violet!
Come, Mother, we must leave them to discuss the arrangements. I must see to my travelling kit.
I think I may go so far as to say that I can depend on Miss Robinson's consent.
I'm afraid we must leave Violet behind. There are circumstances which make it impossible for her to come on such an expedition.
Too American. Must the young lady have a chaperone?
It's not that, Malone, at least not altogether.
Indeed, may I ask what other objection applies?
Oh, tell him. We shall never be able to keep the secret unless everybody knows what it is. Mr. Malone, if you go to Nice with Violet, you go with another man's wife. She's married.
You don't tell me so.
We do, in confidence.
Her marriage has not yet been made known. She desires it shall not be mentioned for the present.
I shall respect the lady's wishes. Would it be indiscreet to ask who her husband is, in case I might have an opportunity of consulting him about this trip?
We don't know who he is.
Oh, in that case, I have no more to say.
You must think this very strange.
A little singular. Pardon me for saying so.
The young lady was married secretly. Her husband has forbidden her, it seems, to declare his name. Well, it's only right to tell you, since you're interested in Violet.
I hope this is not a disappointment to you.
Well, it is a blow. I can hardly understand how a man can leave a wife in such a position. Surely it's not customary. It's not manly. It's not considerate.
Yes, we feel that, as you may imagine, pretty deeply.
It's some young fool who has not enough experience to know what mystifications of this kind can lead to.
I hope so. A man need be very young and pretty foolish, too, to be excused such conduct. You take a very lenient view, Mr. Ramsden. Too lenient in my mind. Surely marriage should ennoble a man.
Well,
Am I to gather from that cachinnation that you don't agree with me, Mr. Tanner?
Get married and try. You may find it delightful for a while. You certainly won't find it ennobling.
Well, we think in America that a woman's moral number is higher than a man's, and that the pure nature of a woman lifts a man right out of himself and makes him better than he was.
So it does.
No wonder American women prefer to live in Europe. It's more comfortable than standing all their lives on an altar to be worshipped. However, Violet's husband has not been ennobled, so what's to be done?
I can't dismiss this man's conduct as lightly as you do, Mr. Tanner. However, I'll say no more. Whoever he is, he's Miss Robinson's husband, and I should be glad for her sake to think better of him.
I'm very sorry, Malone, very sorry.
You're a good fellow, Robinson. Thank you.
Talk about something else. Violet's coming from the house.
I should esteem it a very great favor, man, if you would take the opportunity to let me have a few words with the lady alone. I shall have to cry off this trip, and it's a rather delicate
Say no
situation.
more. Come, Terry, come, David.
Are they looking?
No.
Have you been telling lies for my sake?
Lying? Lying hardly describes it. I overdo it. I get carried away in an ecstasy of mendacity. Violet, I wish you'd let me own up.
No, Hector. You promised me not to.
I'll keep my promise until you release me from it. But I feel mean lying to those men, denying my wife just dastardly.
I wish your father were not so unreasonable.
He's not unreasonable. He's right from his point of view. He has a prejudice against the English middle class.
It's too ridiculous. You know how I dislike saying such things to you, Hector, but if I were to well, no matter.
I know. If you were to marry the son of an English manufacturer of office furniture, your family would consider it a misalliance. And here's my silly old dad, who's the biggest office furniture man in the world, would show me the door for marrying the most perfect lady in England merely because she has no title. Of course, it's just absurd, but I tell you, Violet, I don't like deceiving him. I feel as if I was stealing his money. Why won't you let me own up?
We can't afford it. You can be as romantic as you please about love, Hector, but you mustn't be romantic about money.
That's very English. Violet, Dad's bound to find us out someday.
Yes. Later on, of course. But don't let's go over this every time we meet, darling. You promise.
All right. I won't
It is
say
I and not you who suffer by this concealment. And after facing a struggle and poverty and all that sort of thing, I simply will not do it. It's too silly.
You shall not. I'll sort of borrow the money from my dad until I get up on my own feet. Then I can own up and pay up at the same time.
Do you mean to work? Do you want to spoil our marriage?
Well, I don't mean to let marriage spoil my character. Your friend Mr. Tanner has got to laugh on me a bit already about that.
Please, I hate Jack Tanner.
Oh, he's all right. He just needs the love of a good woman to ennoble him. Besides, he's proposed a motoring trip to Nice, and I'm going to take you.
How jolly.
Yes, but how are we going to manage? You see, they've warned me off going with you, so to speak. They told me, in confidence, that you're married. That's just the most overwhelming confidence I've ever been honored with.
Your car's a great success, Mr. Malone. Mr. Ramsden is still admiring it.
Oh, well, yeah, well, let's go, Vi.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Malone.
I ask to be allowed the pleasure of showing you my little American sports car, Miss Robinson.
I shall be very pleased.
About this trip, Henry.
Yeah?
Anne is supposed to be coming with me.
So I gather.
Tavy is to be one of the party.
Yes?
Well, if you can manage her to be a good deal occupied with me and leave Tavy a good deal occupied with Anne, he'll be deeply grateful to you.
What about the ladies' views?
Oh, she's just as willing to be left to Tavy as Tavy is to be left to her. Stop that aggravating noise. What do you mean by it? Henry, I have ever been a warm advocate of the spread of music among the masses. But I object to you obliging the company every time Anne's name is mentioned. You did it this morning, too.
It's not a bit of use. Tavy may as well give it up first as last.
Why?
Go on, you know why. Of course, none of my business, but you needn't start kidding me about it.
I'm not kidding. I don't know why.
All right, very well. None of my business.
I trust Henry, that as between employer and engineer, I shall always know how to keep my proper distance and not intrude my private affairs on you. Even our business arrangements are subject to the approval of your trade union. But don't abuse your advantages. Let me remind you that Voltaire said that what was too silly to be said could be sung.
It wasn't Voltaire, it was Beaumarchais.
Yes, I stand corrected. Beaumarchais, of course. Now, you seem to think that what is too delicate to be said can be whistled. Unfortunately, your whistling, though melodious, is unintelligible. Come, there's nobody listening, neither my genteel relatives nor the secretary of your confounded union. As man-to-man, Henry, why do you think Tavy has no chance with Anne?
Because she's after someone else.
Bosh! Hey, who else?
You.
Me?
You mean to tell me you didn't know? Come now, Mr. Tanner.
Are you playing the fool, or do you mean it?
I ain't playing no fool. This is plain as a nose on your face. Excuse me now, Mr. Tanner, but you asked me man to man, so I told you man to man.
Then I am the bee. the spider, the marked-down victim, the destined prey.
See, I don't know about the bee or the spider, but the marked-down victim, that's what you are, make no mistake. Hey, and a jolly good job too, I should think.
Henry Straker, the moment of your life has arrived.
What do you mean?
That record to Biskra.
Yes?
Break it.
Do you mean it?
I do.
When?
Now. Is that machine ready to start?
But you can't.
Off we go. First to the bank for money, then to my rooms for my kit, then to your rooms for your kit. Then break the record from London to Dover or Folkestone, then across the Channel and away like mad to Marseille, Gibraltar, Genoa, any port from which we can sail to a country where men are protected from women.
Oh, you're kidding!
Stay behind then. If you won't come, I'll do it alone.
Well, here, mister. No offer, Mo. Steady on.
Friends and fellow brigands, I have a proposal to make to this meeting. We have now spent 3 evenings discussing the question, have anarchists or social democrats the most personal courage? We have gone into the principles of anarchism and social democracy at great length. The cause of anarchy has been ably represented by our one anarchist who does not know what anarchism means.
Point of order, men, Doctor.
Oh, by thunder, your last point of order took half an hour. Besides, anarchists don't believe in order.
That is a vulgar error, I can prove to you.
Order. On the other hand, we have 3 social democrats among us. They are not on speaking terms and have put before us 3 distinct and incompatible views of social democracy. Hey, we tolerate all opinions here. After all, comrades, most of us are gentlemen and Christians.
You ain't no Christian.
My friend, I am an exception to all rules. It's true, I have the honor to be a Jew, but I am not a slave to any superstition. But I am well aware that the ordinary man, even the ordinary brigand, who can scarcely be called an ordinary man, is not a philosopher. Common sense is good enough for him. And in our business affairs, common sense is good enough for me. Well, what is our business here in the Sierra Nevada? Chosen by the Moors as the fairest spot in Spain. Is it to discuss abstruse questions of political economy?
If we're going to come up with...
No, it's to hold up cars!
Yes!
And secure a more equitable distribution of wealth!
All made by Labour, mind you!
Undoubtedly, all made by Labour, and on its way to be squandered by wealthy vagabonds in the dens of vice that disfigure the sunny shores of the Mediterranean. We intercept that wealth. We restore it to circulation among the class that produced it and chiefly needs it, the working class. We do this at the risk of our lives and liberties, by the exercise of the virtues of courage, endurance, foresight, abstinence. Especially abstinence. I've eaten nothing but broiled rabbit and prickly pears for 3 days.
Hey, no more ain't we?
Have I taken more than my share?
Why should you?
Why should he not? To each according to his needs, from each according to his means.
Look, I agree with both of you. What I say is, let us treat one another as gentlemen and strive to excel in personal courage only when we take the field.
Shakespeare!
Automobile! Automobile!
To arms! Who has the gun?
Here!
Have the nails been strewn in the road?
2 ounces of them!
Good. Duval, with me. If the nails fail, puncture their tires with a pulley.
Allez, vite, vite.
2 only. A capitalist. And his chauffeur. Hey, they look English.
Oh oui, les Anglais. Cochons. Faut tirer, n'est-ce pas?
No. The nails have gone home. The tire is down. They stop.
Fondez sur un nom de Dieu.
Come, Duval. Just keep your hair on. Hey, will they take it quietly? Let us descend and receive them.
Is this the gentleman you describe as your boss? Does he speak English?
Of course he does. You don't suppose we Englishmen let ourselves be bossed about in a foreign language, do you?
Allow me to introduce myself. Mendoza, president of the League of the Sierra. I am a brigand. I live by robbing the rich.
I'm a gentleman. I live by robbing the poor. Shake hands.
Where do I come in?
My friend and driver.
Well, which is he? Friend or driver? It makes all the difference, you know.
We should expect a ransom for a friend. A driver is free. He can even expect a trifling percentage of his employer's ransom if he will honor us by accepting it.
I see. Just to encourage me to come about this way again. Well, I'll think about it.
Mon frère.
Who are you, pray?
Duval, social-démocrate.
Oh, you're a social democrat, are you?
Which means he's sold out to the state and the bourgeoisie. Compromise. That's his fate.
I understand what he say. He say bourgeois, he say compromise. Jamais de la vie, misérable menteur.
Hey, Captain Mendoza, how much of this sort of stuff do you put up with here? Are we having a pleasure trip in the mountains, or are we at a socialist meeting?
Can I offer you anything? Broiled rabbit and prickly pears?
Thank you, we've dined.
Gentlemen, business is over for the day. Go as you please until morning.
Don't none of you go fooling with that card, you hear?
Oh, no fear, Monsieur le Chauffeur. The first one we captured cured us of that.
What'd it do?
It carried 3 brave comrades of ours who did not know how to stop it into Grenada and capsized them opposite the police station. Since then, we never touched one. Shall we chat at our ease?
By all means.
It is the custom in Spain always to put off business until tomorrow. In fact, you have arrived out of office hours. However, should you wish to settle the question of ransom at once, I am at your service.
Oh, tomorrow will do for me. I'm rich enough to pay anything in reason.
Oh, you are a remarkable man, sir. Our guests usually describe themselves as miserably poor.
Oh, poor, miserably poor people don't own motor cars like mine.
Precisely what we say to them.
But treat us well, we shall not prove ungrateful.
Oh, no broiled rabbits or prickly pears, you know.
Wine, milk, bread and cheese can be procured for ready money.
Now we're talking.
Are you all socialists here, may I ask?
Oh, no. Nothing of the kind, I assure you. Hey, we naturally have modern views as to the justice of the existing distribution of wealth. Otherwise, we should lose our self-respect. But nothing you could take exception to.
I had no intention of suggesting anything discreditable. In fact, I'm a bit of a socialist myself.
Most rich men are, I notice.
Quite so.
Socialism must be looking up, though, if your chaps are taking to it.
That is true. A movement which is confined to philosophers and honest men can never exercise any real political influence. There's too few of them. Until a movement shows itself capable of spreading among brigands. Yeah, can never hope for a political majority.
But are your brigands any less honest than ordinary citizens?
So I will be frank with you. Brigandage is abnormal. Abnormal professions attract 2 classes. Those who are not good enough for ordinary bourgeois life and those who are too good for it. We are dregs and scum, sir. The dregs very filthy, the scum very superior.
Take care, some of the dregs will hear you.
It does not matter. Each brigand thinks himself scum and likes to hear the others called dregs.
Come, you're a wit, but may one ask a blunt question?
As blunt as you please.
How does it pay a man of your talent to shepherd such a flock as this on broiled rabbit and prickly pears? I've seen men less gifted, and I'll swear less honest, supping at the Savoy on foie gras and champagne.
Ooh, they've all had their turn at the broiled rabbit, just as I shall have my turn at the Savoy. Indeed, I have had a turn there already. As a waiter.
A waiter? You astonish me.
Yes, I, Mendoza of the Sierra, was a waiter. Hence, perhaps, my cosmopolitanism. Shall I tell you the story of my life?
If it's not too long, old chap.
Henry, you're a Philistine. You have no romance in you. You interest me extremely, President. Never mind Henry. He can go to sleep.
The woman I love.
Oh, it's a love story, is it? I see. Do go on. I was only afraid you were going to talk about yourself.
Myself? I have thrown myself away for her sake. That's why I am here. But no matter. I count the world well lost for her. She had, I pledge you my word, the most magnificent head of hair I ever saw. She had humor. She had intellect. She could cook to perfection. And her highly strung temperament made her unstable, incalculable, variable, capricious, cruel. In a word, enchanting.
And did she respond to your love?
Would I be here if she had? She objected to marry a Jew.
On religious grounds?
No, she said that every Jew considers in his heart that English people are dirty in their habits.
Dirty?
Shows her extraordinary knowledge of the world, for it is undoubtedly true. Our elaborate sanitary code makes us unduly contemptuous of the Gentile.
Did you ever hear that, Henry?
Yeah, I heard my sister say so. She was a cook in a Jewish family once.
I could have got around any other objection, for no woman can stand a suspicion of indelicacy as to her person. My entreaties were in vain. She always retorted that she was no good enough for me and recommended that I marry an accursed barmaid named Rebecca Lazarus, whom I loathed. I told her suicide. She gave me a packet of beetle poison to do it with. I hinted at murder. She went into hysterics, and as I am a living man, I went to America so she might sleep without dreaming I was stealing upstairs to cut her throat. In America, I went out west. I fell in with a man who was wanted by the police for holding up trains. It was he who had the idea of holding up cars in the south of Europe. A welcome idea for a desperate and disappointed man. He gave me valuable introductions to capitalists, to the right sort. I formed a syndicate, and the present enterprise is the result. I became leader, as a Jew always becomes leader by his brains and his imagination. With all my pride of faith, I would give everything I possess to be an Englishman. I'm like a boy. I cut her name on the trees. I carve her initials in the sod. When I am alone, I lie down. I tear my wretched hair. I cry, Louisa.
Louisa?
It's her name, Louisa. Louisa Straker.
Straker?
Now, look here. Louisa Straker is my sister, see? What do you mean by gassing about her like this? Now, what's she got to do with you?
A dramatic coincidence. You're Henry, her favourite brother.
Who are you calling Henry? What call have you to take the liberty with my name or with hers? I'll punch your fat head, so I will.
Hey, if I let you do it, will you promise to brag of it afterwards to her? Then she will be reminded of her Mendoza. That's all I desire.
This is genuine devotion, Henry. You should respect it.
Funk, more like.
Funk, young man? Ah, I come from a famous family of fighters. As your sister well knows, you would have as much chance against me as a perambulator against your motor car.
I ain't afraid of you. With your Louisa. Louisa. Miss Straker is good enough for you, I should think.
I wish you could persuade her to think so.
Oh, come, Henry. Even if you could fight the president, you can't fight the whole League of the Sierra. Sit down again and be friendly. A cat may look at a king, and even a president of brigands may look at your sister. All this family pride is really very old-fashioned.
Well, let him look at her. What means he by making out that she ever looked at him? Now, you hear him talk, one would think she was keeping company with him.
Oh, sir, how all the words of Shakespeare seem to fit every crisis in our emotions. I loved Louisa. 40,000 brothers could not, with all their quantity of love, make up my sum, and so on. I forget the rest. Call it madness, infatuation. I am an able man, a strong man. In 10 years, I would have had a first-class hotel. I met Louisa, and you see, I'm a brigand, an outcast. Even Shakespeare cannot do justice to how I feel for Louisa. Let me read you some lines I have written about her myself. However slight their literary merit may be, they express how I feel better than casual words can.
Put them in the fire, President.
What?
You're sacrificing your career to a monomania.
I know it.
No, you don't. No man would commit such a crime against himself if he really knew what he was doing. How can you look round at these august hills, look up at this divine sky, taste this finely tempered air, and then talk like a literary hack on a second floor in Bloomsbury?
The Sierra is no better than Bloomsbury when once the novelty has worn off. Besides, these mountains, they make you dream of women. Of women with magnificent hair.
Of Louisa, in short. Well, they won't make me dream of women, my friend. I am heart-whole.
Oh, do not boast until morning, sir. This is a strange country for dreams.
Well, we shall see. Good night.
Just allow me to read you a few lines before you go to sleep. I should really like your opinion of them.
Go on, I'm listening.
I saw thee first in Whitsun week. Louisa, Louisa.
My dear President, Louisa is a very pretty name, but it really doesn't rhyme well to Whitsun week.
Of course not. Louisa is not the rhyme, it's the refrain.
Oh, the refrain. Oh, I beg your pardon. Oh, go on.
Perhaps you do not care for that one. Oh. I think you will like this one better. Louisa, I love thee. I love thee, Louisa. Louisa, 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 I love thee. One name and one phrase make my music, Louisa. Louisa, 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 I love thee. Mendoza, thy lover, Mendoza. Mendoza adoringly lives for Louisa. There's nothing but that in the world for Mendoza. Louisa, Louisa, Mendoza adores thee. There's no merit in producing beautiful lines on such a name. It's Louisa. It's an exquisite name, is it not? Oh, wert thou, Louisa, the wife of Mendoza. Mendoza's Louisa. Louisa Mendoza. How blessed for the life of Louisa's Mendoza. How painless his longing of love. For Louisa. That is real poetry. From the heart of hearts. Do you not think it will move her? Asleep as usual. Doggerel to all the world. Heavenly music to me. Idiot that I am to wear my heart on my sleeve. Louisa, I love thee. I love thee, Louisa. Louisa, 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 I love thee. This is a strange country for dreams.
Excuse me, but I'm so lonely, and this place is so awful.
A newcomer?
Yes. I suppose I died this morning. I was in bed with my family about me, then it grew dark, and when the light came back, it was this light by which I walk, seeing nothing. I have wandered for hours in horrible loneliness.
Ah, you've not yet lost the sense of time. One soon does in eternity.
Where are we?
in hell.